The landscape of Roman Britain was a complex tapestry woven from military occupation and cultural exchange. From approximately the 1st to the 5th century CE, the territory we now know as England experienced Roman rule, leaving behind a legacy visible even today. One such place is Wroxeter, formerly known as Viroconium Cornoviorum. It was once a thriving town comparable in size to Pompeii and stood as the fourth largest settlement within Roman Britain. Archaeological excavations have revealed remnants of its past, monumental buildings like a forum, market, bathhouse basilica, and private residences. The site is now managed by English Heritage, which recently completed a museum revamp showcasing artifacts from daily life. Among these objects are over 50 pairs of tweezers discovered at Wroxeter alone, one of the largest collections found in Britain. These tools offer a glimpse into Roman attitudes toward personal appearance and hygiene. While we often associate meticulous grooming with modern society, it was also an important aspect of Roman culture. Communal bathing was a common practice. Citizens frequently visited bathhouses, bringing their own sets of personal cleaning implements, including ear scoops, nail cleaners, and tweezers. These were not solely for cosmetic purposes like shaping eyebrows. They served to remove unwanted body hair. Following trends from Rome itself, Roman Britons favored a clean-shaven appearance as a way to distinguish themselves. The process of removing this hair was reportedly painful, often performed by slaves. A Roman author, Seneca, once described the sounds emanating from public baths, including the skinny armpit hair plucker whose cries are shrill so as to draw people's attention. This suggests that hair removal was a visible and sometimes noisy activity. While tweezers were considered safe, simple, and inexpensive tools for this purpose, they offered little in the way of comfort. It's notable that the practice wasn't limited to women. Men also engaged in body hair removal, particularly those participating in sports like wrestling where minimal clothing would expose the skin. The prevalence of tweezers at Wroxeter and likely other Roman settlements across Britain suggests a widespread adoption of this practice. The discovery of over 50 pairs alone highlights its commonality. While Seneca's observation regarding the noise in bathhouses provides insight into the discomfort associated with hair removal, it also underscores its public nature. This was not a discreet or private activity. Rather, it occurred within communal spaces and involved audible displays of pain. Beyond tweezers, other tools likely contributed to this process, although their remains are less frequently found. The strigil, mentioned among Wroxeter's artifacts, served as a scraper for removing oil and dirt from the skin after bathing, potentially aiding in hair removal by loosening it. While not directly plucking hairs, its use indicates an emphasis on smooth skin. Furthermore, the presence of perfume bottles suggests that freshly shaven or plucked skin was often treated with oils and fragrances, further emphasizing the importance placed upon personal appearance. The social pressure to conform to Roman ideals extended beyond simply adopting Roman dress. It involved actively altering one's body through practices like hair removal, signifying assimilation into Roman culture and distinguishing oneself from those perceived as barbarians. The prevalence of tweezers and other grooming tools also suggests a degree of leisure time available to at least some residents of Roman Britain. The meticulousness required for regular hair removal implies individuals who were not solely occupied with agricultural labor or other essential tasks. While slaves undoubtedly performed this work for their owners, the sheer number of tweezers discovered indicates that free individuals also engaged in these practices themselves. This aligns with Seneca's observation regarding the communal nature of bathing and grooming. It was an activity woven into the fabric of daily life, not a hurried or infrequent occurrence. The presence of Roman-themed games at Wroxeter further illustrates efforts to recreate aspects of Roman culture within this British settlement, suggesting a desire for immersive experiences that extended beyond mere visual imitation. These activities likely provided opportunities for social interaction and reinforced shared cultural values among the inhabitants. The English heritage site at Wroxeter Roman City has long been recognized as one of Britain's most significant archaeological treasures, a place once home to a bustling town comparable in size to Pompeii. Recent renovations have brought renewed attention to this settlement, and among the newly displayed artifacts is an impressive collection of ancient tweezers. These tools offer a tangible glimpse into the grooming practices of Roman Britons, revealing details about their aesthetic preferences and social customs. Over 50 pairs of tweezers have been discovered at Wroxeter alone, representing one of the largest such collections found in Britain. Their presence underscores the popularity of this accessory within the community. The tweezers themselves are indicative of a degree of craftsmanship. They were considered safe, simple, and relatively inexpensive to produce, though their use was undeniably uncomfortable. These weren't solely for eyebrow shaping. Roman Britons employed them for removing unwanted body hair across the entire physique. This practice, favored by both men and women, served as a means of distinguishing themselves from those deemed barbarians and adhering to prevailing aesthetic standards. For men, particularly those participating in sports like wrestling, where minimal clothing was worn, complete hair removal was socially expected. The discovery of these tweezers aligns with observations from Roman authors such as Seneca, who described the often painful process performed by individuals within public bathhouses. While slaves frequently carried out this labor for their owners, the sheer volume of tweezers found at Wroxeter suggests that free individuals also participated in hair removal themselves, further demonstrating its integration into daily life. The sheer number of tweezers recovered from Wroxeter provides a unique opportunity to examine variations in their construction and potential use. While many are simple utilitarian instruments crafted from bronze or iron, subtle differences exist that suggest varying levels of skill among craftspeople and perhaps differing preferences among users. Some examples exhibit particularly fine points, indicating an attempt at greater precision, while others display signs of repeated sharpening and wear, highlighting the labor involved in their maintenance and use. The discovery of tweezers made from bone, though less common than those fashioned from metal, further expands our understanding of available materials and potentially reflects a broader range of economic circumstances among individuals engaging in hair removal practices. Analysis of residue found on several specimens has yielded limited but intriguing results. Microscopic examination revealed traces consistent with plant oils, suggesting the possible use of lubricants to ease the plucking process or perhaps as part of post-treatment skincare routines. The presence of these organic residues is fleeting and difficult to interpret definitively, yet they offer a tantalizing glimpse into practices beyond simple hair removal itself. Further research employing more sophisticated analytical techniques may yield additional insights into the substances used alongside these tools. The prevalence of tweezers at Wroxeter also prompts consideration of their distribution within the settlement. While numerous examples have been found across various contexts, domestic dwellings, public buildings, and even in middens, a disproportionate number appear to originate from areas associated with bathhouses or other facilities related to personal hygiene. This concentration reinforces the connection between hair removal and communal bathing practices described by Roman authors like Seneca, suggesting that these spaces served as important venues for both social interaction and grooming rituals. The ongoing excavation of Wroxeter continues to reveal new artifacts and refine our understanding of this significant aspect of Roman life in Britain. The sheer number of tweezers recovered from Wroxeter suggests a widespread practice extending beyond elite households, indicating that body hair removal was not solely an activity reserved for the wealthy or privileged classes. While Roman literary sources often portray slaves as performing this task, the presence of numerous tweezers in domestic contexts implies some level of self-grooming or perhaps shared practices within families and communities. The meticulous craftsmanship evident in many specimens, some featuring intricate detailing on their handles, further suggests that these tools were valued possessions, treated with care and passed down through generations. Examination of wear patterns on the gripping ends reveals a range of handling styles, potentially reflecting differences in skill level or individual preferences among users. While it is impossible to determine definitively who wielded these instruments, the archaeological record provides compelling evidence for their widespread use across various social strata within Roman Britain. The archaeological record of Roman Britain reveals a surprising preoccupation with personal appearance and hygiene. Among the artifacts recovered from sites like Wroxeter, once a thriving town known as Vericonium Cornoviorum, are numerous examples of ancient tweezers. Over 50 pairs have been found at Wroxeter alone, representing one of the largest collections in Britain. These tools were not reserved solely for the elite. Their widespread presence suggests that hair removal was a practice adopted across various social strata. The Romans placed considerable importance on cleanliness and appearance, engaging in communal bathing practices daily. Individuals often carried personal grooming sets to these baths, which included items like ear scoops, nail cleaners, and tweezers. These were not solely used for shaping eyebrows. The purpose extended to removing unwanted body hair altogether. This preference for a clean-shaven look was influenced by Roman fashions and served as a means of distinguishing themselves from those considered barbarians. The process of plucking this hair, however, was reportedly painful. One Roman author, Seneca, described the noise emanating from public baths, specifically mentioning the skinny armpit hair plucker whose cries are shrill. He noted that these individuals worked until their clients shrieked. The advantage of tweezers lay in their simplicity and affordability, though not in their comfort. While slaves frequently performed this task for others, the presence of numerous tweezers within domestic contexts implies some level of self-grooming or shared practices among families and communities. Notably, Roman Britons extended this practice to men as well, particularly those participating in activities like wrestling, where minimal clothing was worn. A lack of visible body hair was considered socially expected. The prevalence of tweezers at sites like Wroxeter underscores their accessibility and widespread use, with over 50 pairs discovered within a single Roman settlement. This abundance suggests that while slaves often performed hair removal for others, individuals also maintained their own grooming routines or shared tools amongst families. The practice itself was not without its drawbacks. The process remained inherently painful despite the tool's simplicity. Beyond the immediate discomfort of plucking, the constant manipulation and irritation could lead to skin issues like ingrown hairs and folliculitis, though specific medical texts addressing these concerns within this context have yet to be recovered. While Seneca's observation highlights the audible distress associated with hair removal in public baths, it also hints at a broader societal acceptance, or perhaps resignation, to the discomfort involved. The emphasis on a clean-shaven appearance extended beyond mere aesthetics. It served as a visual marker of Roman identity and civility, distinguishing them from neighboring groups whose grooming practices differed. This distinction was not merely symbolic, but functioned as a means of reinforcing social hierarchies and cultural boundaries within the Roman world. The prevalence of tweezers at Wroxeter alone, where over 50 pairs have been discovered, suggests a widespread practice extending across social strata. While the precise origins of this grooming trend within Roman Britain remain unclear, its adoption likely mirrored broader cultural influences emanating from Italy. The Shropshire Star notes that these tools were considered a popular accessory, indicating their integration into daily life beyond elite circles. Though primarily associated with women's beauty routines, as evidenced by Seneca's commentary on the sounds of public baths, the removal of body hair was not exclusively a feminine pursuit. Men engaged in activities like wrestling also participated, driven by social expectations regarding appearance during physical exertion. The tweezers themselves represented a relatively accessible and safe method compared to other potential techniques, though their use still necessitated considerable time and effort. Their simplicity belied the discomfort involved. Seneca's observation underscores that even with this seemingly benign tool, the process was not without its audible drawbacks for both the practitioner and the recipient. The Roman barber, known as a tonsor, occupied a place within daily life that extended beyond simple haircutting and shaving. His work included trimming facial hair, cleaning or cutting nails, and other grooming tasks. The tonstrina, the barber's shop, served as more than just a service location. It was a gathering point where men might meet, talk, listen, argue, and observe one another. A man's beard, hairstyle, cleanliness, and general appearance communicated his age, social position, moral seriousness, political identity, and even his attitude toward Greek culture or traditional Roman customs. A typical day for a tonsor likely began early as the city stirred to life. His shop would have been situated in a busy urban setting, perhaps near public baths or markets, providing easy access for clients seeking regular maintenance to appear orderly in public. While some barbers served wealthier households directly, many operated smaller shops along streets and markets. A man might visit when he could afford it. The poor also cared about appearance, but were limited by resources. The work itself was practical, requiring a level of trust, as a careless barber with a razor posed a risk of cuts or irritation. The tools of his trade were relatively simple: razors for shaving, shears or scissors for cutting hair, combs to arrange and separate strands, and smaller blades and tweezers for detailed grooming. Mirrors existed, though their reflective quality was less clear than modern mirrors. A sharp razor in skilled hands produced a respectable result. However, a poor blade could lead to discomfort, a common complaint noted by Roman writers. The tonsor's work was intimate, involving close contact with his client's face, head, and neck while shaping their public image. Shaving held particular importance for many Roman men, especially among the elite, as a clean-shaven face became associated with discipline and civic order. A man might sit while the barber applied water or oil before using a razor. This process depended heavily on the barber's skill and the condition of his blade. The tonsor's role extended beyond simply removing hair. He helped shape an appearance that carried social meaning, contributing to the broader Roman concern with order and presentation. The tonsor's skill extended to managing beards as well, a practice whose prevalence shifted with changing fashions and imperial preference. While clean-shaven faces became increasingly associated with Roman masculinity during much of the Republic and early Empire, Emperors like Hadrian demonstrated that facial hair could also signify status and cultural influence. The barber's tools remained essential regardless, whether shaping a smooth face or carefully trimming a beard into a fashionable style. His expertise was required to maintain appearances deemed acceptable within Roman society. Literary sources suggest a ritual known as the depositio barbae, marking a young man's first shave, as a transition toward adult male status, though this practice appears to have been more ceremonial than commonplace for regular grooming. The barber shop itself functioned as an informal hub of neighborhood life. Men awaiting their turn often engaged in conversation about politics, legal matters, public spectacles, local gossip, and military news, information vital within a society where reputation carried significant weight. This social aspect made the tonstrina comparable to other communal spaces like the baths or forum, places where Romans encountered one another and exchanged information. A visit to the barber could therefore involve more than just grooming. It was an opportunity for casual networking and staying abreast of current events. The relaxed atmosphere also fostered jokes and criticism, with barbers often becoming figures of amusement due to their close proximity to clients and the inherent risks associated with shaving. A misplaced hand or dull blade could easily result in discomfort. The availability of mirrors also influenced grooming practices. While some wealthy households possessed polished metal versions, their reflective quality was limited compared to later glass mirrors. This meant that barbers often relied on verbal feedback from clients or assistants to ensure evenness and accuracy during shaving or haircuts. Evidence suggests the use of pumice stones for exfoliation prior to shaving, further demonstrating a focus on skin preparation. Literary references indicate that certain herbs and oils were employed as pre-shave treatments, though their specific composition and efficacy remain unclear due to limited surviving recipes. The tonser's skill extended beyond simply wielding a razor. It encompassed an understanding of these preparatory steps and the ability to adapt techniques based on individual hair and skin types, a testament to the practical knowledge accumulated within the trade. The Roman barber, known as a tonsor, occupied a small but surprisingly important place within daily life. His work included cutting hair, shaving beards, trimming facial hair, removing unwanted hair, and cleaning or cutting nails. The tonsor's shop, the tonstrina, was a place where men might meet, talk, wait, listen, argue, and observe one another, a fixture of neighborhood life. A man's beard, hairstyle, cleanliness, and general grooming could suggest his age, social position, moral seriousness, political identity, or even his attitude toward Greek culture or old Roman tradition. Not all barbers enjoyed the same standing within this system. Some worked in small public shops or streets, while others served wealthier households directly. A rich Roman might have enslaved or freed attendants to manage grooming, whereas a more ordinary man visited a barber shop when he could afford it. The poor still cared about appearance but were limited by time and money. Barbering was a practical trade requiring trust. A razor was not harmless, and carelessness could result in cuts or irritation. Shaving became strongly associated with Roman male respectability, especially among the elite, during much of the Republic and early Empire. A smooth face suggested discipline and civic order. However, attitudes toward facial hair changed over time. Emperors like Hadrian helped popularize beards under Greek cultural influence. Even a fashionable beard required grooming, so the tonsor remained important, whether shaving or bearded styles were in vogue. The barber's tools were simple: razors for shaving, shears for cutting hair, combs to arrange it, and other implements for detailed work. the quality of these tools mattered. A sharp razor produced better results than a poor blade. A man who emerged clean-shaven and neatly trimmed presented himself as someone belonging within the expectations of Roman civic life. The tonsor's work also extended to nail care, a practice that occupied a similar space between practicality and display as shaving or haircuts. While some Romans likely trimmed their nails themselves, others sought out the barber's services for this task. Literary sources mention barbers performing this function alongside cutting hair and shaving beards, suggesting it was a standard part of their offerings. The care given to nails mirrored the attention paid to other aspects of personal appearance. Neatly trimmed nails signaled orderliness and refinement. Like with haircuts, the quality of service varied depending on the barber's skill and available tools. The economic realities for tonsors were diverse, reflecting the range of clientele they served. While some operated successful businesses within bustling urban centers, others likely struggled to earn a meager living from less affluent customers. The cost of establishing a tonstrina, securing space, acquiring tools, and advertising services represented an initial investment that could be prohibitive for many. Those who managed to establish shops often benefited from their location, choosing sites near public baths or marketplaces where potential clients congregated. A successful tonsor might employ assistants, further expanding his capacity to serve customers and increasing his overall earnings. The ability to attract a loyal clientele depended on reputation. A barber known for skill and reliability could command higher prices and enjoy greater stability than one who produced unsatisfactory results. The social standing of the tonsor itself was complex and often ambiguous. While not considered among the most prestigious professions, barbers were generally viewed as respectable tradesmen contributing to the fabric of Roman society. Their position fell somewhere between that of a slave or manual laborer and a skilled artisan like a sculptor or architect. The profession attracted individuals from various social backgrounds. Some were freeborn citizens seeking economic opportunity, while others were freedmen striving for upward mobility. Enslaved people also worked as barbers, often trained by their owners to provide grooming services within the household or in public shops. A freedman tonsor might aspire to accumulate wealth and influence, potentially attracting wealthy clients who could offer patronage and advancement. The profession's accessibility meant that it provided a pathway for social mobility, albeit one fraught with challenges and limitations. The Roman barber, known as a tonsor, occupied an important place within daily life. His work extended beyond simple cutting and trimming. He was part craftsman, part service worker, and a fixture of neighborhood life. The tonstrina, or barber shop, served as a gathering spot where men might meet to talk, wait, listen, argue, and observe one another. A man's appearance, his beard, hairstyle, cleanliness, and grooming could suggest his age, social position, moral seriousness, political identity, and even his attitude toward Greek culture or traditional Roman customs. The tonsor's work included cutting hair, shaving beards, trimming facial hair, removing unwanted hair, cleaning or cutting nails, and sometimes other small grooming tasks. A barber shop was not merely a place of quick service, it could also serve as a center for neighborhood conversation. Men waiting their turn might discuss politics, lawsuits, public shows, local scandals, business, military news, or the behavior of well-known citizens. This social role made the barber shop comparable to other public spaces in Roman life, like the baths and forum. Shaving was one of the most important tasks associated with Roman barbers. During much of the Republic and early Empire, a clean-shaven face became strongly associated with Roman male respectability, especially among the elite. A smooth face could suggest discipline and civic order. Ancient literature sometimes jokes about bad barbers, slow barbers, trembling hands and faces covered in nicks, reminding us that shaving was not always comfortable or precise. The tools of a Roman barber were simple: razors for shaving, shears or scissors to cut hair, combs to arrange it, and small blades and tweezers for detailed grooming. A sharp razor in skilled hands could produce a respectable result, but a poor blade could drag and scrape. The relationship between bathing and grooming extended to the equipment used. Strigils, curved metal scrapers employed to remove oil and dirt from the skin after bathing, were sometimes sold alongside barbering tools. While a tonsor might not have performed the initial scraping, he would be expected to provide a clean surface for shaving or hair trimming following a bath. Literary sources suggest that some barbers also provided services within the baths themselves, offering haircuts and shaves directly to men enjoying the facilities. This blurred the lines between bathing establishments and barbershops, reinforcing their roles as social hubs. The cost of these services varied depending on the barber's skill, location, and clientele. While a simple haircut might be relatively inexpensive for an ordinary citizen, more elaborate grooming procedures or appointments with highly sought-after barbers could command significant fees. The price would also reflect the quality of tools used. A tonsor employing superior razors or shears was likely to charge more than one relying on less refined equipment. Evidence suggests that some barbers operated under contracts, providing regular services for specific clients at agreed-upon rates. This indicates a degree of professionalization within the trade and highlights the economic importance of grooming in Roman society. The presence of barbershops also reveals aspects of urban planning and infrastructure. These establishments were typically located along busy streets or near public spaces to maximize visibility and foot traffic. Some were integrated into larger commercial complexes, sharing space with other businesses such as taverns or food vendors. The layout would have included a waiting area for customers, a workspace for the barber, and storage for tools and supplies. Grooming was not an isolated ritual. It belonged to a social world of public baths, crowded streets, domestic service, slaves, freedmen, clients, patrons, and constant scrutiny. Roman grooming also changed over time. The arrival of professional barbers was sometimes treated as a sign that Roman habits had become more refined. By the late Republic and Imperial period, regular shaving and controlled hair became an important part of masculine presentation. Shaving carried special significance. The ceremonial shaving of a youth's first beard could mark his movement toward adult male status. A regular shave often involved water, oil, or some form of preparation before using a razor. Ancient razors required skill to use well. Roman complaints about barbers often focus on discomfort. Beards in Rome were never just hair. They could express age, grief, philosophy, cultural taste, and changing fashion. The clean-shaven Roman ideal was especially strong among the elite, but it was not permanent. Imperial portraiture influenced how men wanted to appear. Even a fashionable beard required grooming. A barber helped produce the Roman male appearance, which carried social meaning. Roman men's hairstyles were usually shorter and more restrained than those of women, but they were still meaningful. Hair could be cropped, combed, curled, or shaped according to fashion. The barber's challenge was to satisfy fashion without making the customer look ridiculous. A man who emerged clean-shaven, neatly trimmed, and properly arranged presented himself as someone who belonged within Roman society. The tools of a Roman barber were simple: razors for shaving, shears or scissors to cut hair, combs to arrange it, and small blades and tweezers for detailed grooming. Some grooming tools also belonged in households, especially among wealthier families. A rich household might contain combs, mirrors, perfume containers, tweezers, and cosmetic instruments. Roman grooming should not be separated from bathing. The public baths combined washing, exercise, relaxation, conversation, and display. Cleanliness was social as well as physical. It helped prepare a person to appear among others. This also helps explain why grooming was not only a male concern. Women, too, had complex routines involving hair, cosmetics, perfumes, skin treatments, clothing, and jewelry. The work of male barbers was one part of a larger Roman culture of bodily care. The tools used for Roman grooming extended beyond shears and combs. Small blades and tweezers played a role in detailed personal care. These instruments were part of a broader culture of bodily care, reflecting changing attitudes toward cleanliness and appearance over time. Initially, Roman hygiene was simpler, but as the empire grew, so did concerns about bathing, jewelry, and cosmetics. Among the implements found at archaeological sites are tweezers, which Romans used to pluck unwanted body hair. Becky Little notes that these tools didn't exist in Britain before the Romans arrived, suggesting their introduction alongside Roman customs. Seneca, a first-century Roman writer, even remarked on the presence of professional hair pluckers creating noise within bathhouses, though his commentary also reveals a moral disapproval of such displays of luxury and leisure. While it's difficult to know precisely how widespread this practice was, evidence suggests that armpit hair plucking was at least reasonably common. Alongside tweezers, Romans employed other grooming tools like nail cleaners, a V-shaped instrument which served as both cleaner and file, particularly prevalent in Roman Britain. Some of these implements were discovered connected together like a ring of keys, indicating their status as portable toiletry sets. Another tool, the strigil, was adopted from Greek practices. It was used to scrape oil and dirt from the skin after exercise or bathing. Archaeologists have found strigils associated with oil containers and even buried in graves, suggesting an association with athleticism. Romans also utilized ear picks or scoops, often made of bronze, bone, or glass, for cleaning ears, though these tools may have had multiple uses, such as scooping perfume from small bottles. Archaeologists have also uncovered numerous cosmetic sets comprised of copper alloys used for applying eyeliner and eyeshadow, alongside perfume bottles, further illustrating the Romans' dedication to personal presentation. The tweezers found at Wroxeter date from between the 2nd and 5th centuries CE, a period when hair removal was prevalent throughout the Roman Empire, though motivations varied among individuals. While women were generally expected to remove body hair as a means of enhancing attractiveness, men often did so to conform to aesthetic ideals associated with athleticism and physical activity. The discovery of dozens of tweezers at Wroxeter represents one of Britain's largest collections of these implements. However, similar finds have occurred elsewhere, such as the set of tweezers and ear-cleaning device unearthed southwest of London. Cleanliness and style served as markers of status in Roman society, distinguishing them from other European cultures where unkempt hair or poor hygiene were viewed negatively. Achieving this look frequently involved enslaved individuals performing the hair removal process. At its peak, Wroxeter was a significant settlement, comparable to Pompeii in size. and ongoing archaeological investigations continue to reveal insights into daily life during Roman occupation. The exhibition also features artifacts such as a copper pipe that once supplied water to the city's bathhouse, demonstrating the infrastructure supporting these grooming practices. The prevalence of hair removal extended beyond mere aesthetics. It also reflected social hierarchies and economic realities within Roman society. As noted by Smithsonian Magazine, Seneca's writings reveal that professional pluckers existed, suggesting a market for this service and indicating its accessibility to those who could afford it. The discovery of tweezers alongside cosmetic sets, including eyeliner and eyeshadow applicators and perfume bottles, further underscores the importance placed on personal presentation across various social strata. While enslaved individuals frequently performed hair removal as part of their duties, evidence suggests that free Roman citizens also engaged in these practices, either independently or by employing skilled artisans. The meticulous nature of grooming rituals highlights a cultural emphasis on orderliness and refinement, distinguishing Roman norms from those prevalent in other European communities where unkempt appearances were more common. Furthermore, the presence of strigils, bronze scraping tools used for cleansing, demonstrates that hair removal was often integrated into broader bathing routines, emphasizing hygiene as an integral aspect of daily life. The Smithsonian article also mentions that ancient Romans believed Portugal produced the best urine for teeth whitening, a testament to their unusual beauty practices and the lengths they went to achieve desired appearances. The recent renovations at Wroxeter Roman City have revealed a remarkable collection of ancient tweezers, over 50 pairs discovered within the site alone, representing one of Britain's largest known assemblages of this tool. These artifacts offer a tangible glimpse into the meticulous grooming practices prevalent among Roman Britons. While often associated with eyebrow shaping, these tweezers were employed for the removal of unwanted body hair across both men and women. The process was not undertaken lightly. Seneca, a Roman author and politician, once expressed his annoyance at the sounds emanating from public baths, specifically noting the skinny armpit hair plucker whose cries are shrill so as to draw people's attention. This suggests that the act of plucking itself could be quite distressing. The desire for a clean-shaven appearance wasn't merely a matter of personal preference. It served as a marker of Roman identity and distinction from those considered barbarians. For men participating in activities like wrestling, where minimal clothing was worn, the removal of body hair became a social expectation. Women, too, engaged in this practice, driven by cultural ideals that linked smooth skin to beauty and desirability. As one ancient writer observed, a woman's attractiveness could be jeopardized if she failed to maintain a hair-free appearance. The prevalence of these tweezers indicates that the pursuit of such an ideal was widespread, though undoubtedly painful for those undergoing the process. It is understood that this labor frequently fell to slaves, adding another layer of complexity to its social and economic implications. The discomfort associated with this practice extended beyond mere physical pain. Seneca's observation highlights a disruption of public tranquility, suggesting that the process was not discreet or easily borne. The sheer number of tweezers discovered at Wroxeter, over 50 pairs, underscores the prevalence of hair removal, but also hints at the labor involved and its potential for generating noise and complaint within communal spaces. While Seneca's words offer a glimpse into Roman sensibilities regarding public disturbances, other textual sources reveal the cultural significance attached to hairlessness. Pliny and Ovid, among others, wrote about the importance of maintaining a smooth appearance for women, implying that a lack of attention to body hair could negatively impact their perceived attractiveness. This expectation placed a burden on individuals, particularly those whose labor was performed by enslaved people. The act itself became intertwined with social status and adherence to Roman ideals, reinforcing distinctions between those who conformed to these standards and those who did not. Evidence suggests that the practice wasn't solely about aesthetics. For men involved in wrestling or other athletic pursuits requiring minimal clothing, a hairless physique was seemingly expected, further demonstrating how body modification served as a marker of social belonging. The expectation that Roman Britons maintain a hairless physique extended beyond mere aesthetics and influenced social interactions, as evidenced by Seneca's observations regarding public disturbances during hair removal procedures. The prevalence of tweezers, over 50 pairs discovered at Wroxeter alone, suggests both widespread participation in this practice and the considerable labor required to sustain it. Accounts from Pliny and Ovid further illuminate the cultural significance attached to smooth skin for women, implying a societal pressure to conform to Roman ideals of beauty. This expectation likely contributed to an environment where individuals felt compelled to engage in hair removal, often relying on enslaved laborers to perform this task. The practice was not limited to women. Men involved in wrestling and other athletic activities also faced social expectations regarding body hair removal, reinforcing the role of appearance as a marker of belonging within Roman society. Furthermore, archaeological evidence suggests that the meticulousness with which Romans approached personal grooming extended beyond mere aesthetics. The discovery of strigils, tools used for scraping skin alongside tweezers and perfume bottles, indicates a comprehensive approach to hygiene and beautification, reflecting a broader cultural emphasis on cleanliness and presentation. This dedication to physical appearance underscores the importance placed on conforming to Roman norms within the context of Roman Britain. The importance of personal appearance within Roman society extended to meticulous grooming practices, and a key figure facilitating this was the tonsor, or barber. More than simply someone who cut hair or shaved beards, the tonsor occupied a unique position in Roman daily life. His shop, the tonstrina, served as a gathering place where men might meet, converse, observe one another, and exchange information, a vital function within a city where reputation carried considerable weight. The emphasis on grooming evolved over time. Early Romans were often perceived as rougher than their later descendants, and the rise of professional barbers was sometimes viewed as a sign of increasing refinement. By the late Republic and Imperial period, however, regular shaving and controlled hair became an important element in masculine presentation, particularly for citizens striving to appear respectable, disciplined, and distinctly Roman. A clean-shaven face, specifically, came to suggest discipline, civic order, and participation in public life. Conversely, an untended beard could imply mourning, philosophical affectation, foreignness, poverty, or neglect, a complex system of visual communication. The tonsor's work was practical, involving cutting hair, shaving beards, trimming facial hair, removing unwanted hair, cleaning nails, and sometimes other grooming tasks. While some barbers operated in small public shops or markets, others served wealthier households directly, either as enslaved attendants or freedmen. The tools of the trade were relatively simple: razors for shaving, shears for cutting hair, combs to arrange it, and smaller implements for detailed work. A sharp razor was essential, but a poor blade could lead to discomfort, an experience Roman literature occasionally jokes about. Beyond mere practicality, grooming held social significance. The tonsor touched the face, head, and neck of his customer, creating a public image that carried meaning within a society deeply concerned with status and honor. This intimacy meant the barber's labor was more significant than it might initially appear. He actively contributed to shaping the Roman male appearance, an appearance laden with social implications. The Tunstrina itself functioned as a listening post, a place where news, gossip, and casual networking circulated amongst men waiting their turn, a crucial element in a society reliant on personal relationships. The ornatrix, like the tonsor, occupied a specialized role within Roman society, though her clientele and working conditions differed significantly from those of her male counterpart. While barbers catered to men in public spaces, female hairdressers typically operated within the confines of wealthy households or private establishments, catering specifically to women. This distinction reflected broader gender divisions within Roman labor and social life. Literary sources occasionally mention ornatrices, often alongside other household staff like manicurists and massage attendants, highlighting their integration into a complex system of domestic service. The skills of an ornatrix extended beyond mere hairstyling. She was expected to possess knowledge of cosmetics, perfumes, and fashionable hairstyles, a crucial role in maintaining the appearance of elite Roman women. The practice of hair removal among Roman women, like that for men, was not uniform across social classes or time periods. While evidence suggests early Roman women favored simpler styles, later imperial fashion embraced more elaborate coiffures, requiring considerable manipulation of facial and body hair. Pliny the Elder, in his Natural History, details various methods employed for removing unwanted hair, including depilatory creams made from ingredients like arsenic and quicklime, a testament to the lengths to which some Roman women went to achieve an idealized appearance. These recipes, while providing insight into ancient cosmetic practices, also underscore the potential dangers involved, as improper preparation or application could result in skin irritation or burns. The use of pumice stones and tweezers was also documented for hair removal, suggesting a range of techniques available depending on resources and preferences. Seneca, writing about moderation and natural beauty, subtly critiques excessive grooming practices among women, implying that elaborate hairstyles and depilation were signs of vanity and artificiality, a perspective reflecting the ongoing tension between societal expectations and philosophical ideals regarding appearance. The cost of these treatments, whether performed by enslaved attendants or professional ornatrices, further reinforced social distinctions, with wealthier women able to afford more frequent and specialized grooming services than their poorer counterparts. The appearance of a Roman man carried considerable weight. It suggested his age, social standing, moral character, and even his attitude toward Greek culture or traditional Roman values. The individual responsible for much of this presentation was the tonsor, the Roman barber. More than simply someone who cut hair or shaved beards, he functioned as a craftsman, service provider, gossip collector, and a familiar presence within neighborhood life. His shop, the Tonstrina, served as a gathering place where men could meet, converse, listen, argue, and observe one another, a vital space in a city where reputation held immense power. The importance of grooming evolved over time. Early Roman society was often perceived as rougher than its later iterations, with professional barbers initially viewed as a sign of increasingly refined habits. However, by the late Republic and Imperial period, regular shaving and controlled hairstyles became integral to masculine presentation, particularly for citizens striving to appear respectable, disciplined, and distinctly Roman. This emphasis on appearance extended beyond mere hygiene. It was an active declaration of belonging within Roman society. While men frequented barber shops for these services, women's grooming practices often occurred within the household, managed by enslaved or freed female attendants, rather than in public spaces. Elite women dedicated considerable time to elaborate hairstyles involving curls, waves, and decorative ornaments, a process overseen by a specialist known as an ornatrix. Though Roman writers occasionally criticized excessive attention to appearance among women, it remained a crucial element of their social presentation. The tools employed by the tuncer were relatively simple: razors for shaving, shears or scissors for cutting hair, combs for arranging styles, and smaller implements for detailed grooming. The quality of these tools mattered. A dull razor could lead to irritation and discomfort, reminding customers that ancient shaving was not always a pleasant experience. Yet, even with skilled hands, the process lacked the convenience of modern techniques. A clean-shaven face became strongly associated with Roman male respectability, suggesting discipline and civic order. The depositio barbae, or ceremonial shaving of a young man's first beard, marked his transition to adulthood, sometimes accompanied by rituals involving dedication to deities. The contrast between Roman grooming practices and those of neighboring peoples highlights a key aspect of Roman identity construction. While detailed accounts of barbarian customs are often filtered through Roman perspectives, portraying them as uncivilized or lacking in refinement, they nonetheless reveal divergent approaches to bodily presentation. For example, many Germanic tribes valued long hair among men, viewing short haircuts as signs of servitude or effeminacy. Tacitus, writing about the Germani, describes their aversion to shaving and elaborate hairstyles, associating these practices with Roman decadence. He notes that the Gauls, too, often retained facial hair, though sometimes styled it in ways considered peculiar by Romans. These differences were not merely aesthetic, they served as markers of cultural distinction, reinforcing a sense of otherness between Rome and its neighbors. The very act of shaving, so central to Roman male identity, could be interpreted by some groups as an abandonment of traditional customs or a symbolic submission to Roman authority. Literary sources suggest that Roman soldiers sometimes shaved the hair of conquered peoples as a form of humiliation or control, further demonstrating how grooming practices were intertwined with power dynamics and cultural subjugation. The Romans frequently used descriptions of barbarian appearance, long beards, unkempt hair, lack of cleanliness, to justify their own standards of order and civilization. This rhetorical strategy helped solidify Roman dominance by portraying conquered populations as inherently less refined or capable of self-governance. While some Roman writers acknowledged the potential for vanity in excessive grooming, the broader cultural narrative consistently positioned Roman shaving and controlled hairstyles as hallmarks of a disciplined and civilized society, sharply contrasting with what they perceived as the wildness of barbarian appearance. The impulse to remove unwanted hair is far from a modern phenomenon. Archaeological discoveries across Britain, particularly at the Roman settlement of Wroxeter, reveal that this practice was widespread in ancient Roman society. English Heritage's recent museum revamp there has brought to light an impressive collection of tweezers. Over 50 pairs have been found at the site alone, a testament to their common use. These weren't solely for shaping eyebrows. They were employed for removing hair from across the body, a process that would have been both laborious and painful. Roman Britons adopted grooming habits prevalent in Rome itself, striving for a clean-shaven appearance as a marker of distinction from what they considered barbarian customs. The removal of body hair was not limited to women. Men also engaged in this practice, especially those participating in activities like wrestling, where minimal clothing exposed the skin. While we cannot know precisely how widespread these practices were amongst all social classes, the sheer number of tweezers found at Wroxeter suggests a significant level of engagement with personal grooming across segments of Roman British society. The process itself was often performed by slaves, highlighting another facet of Roman social hierarchy intertwined with beauty standards. A Roman author and politician, Seneca, even remarked on the noisy nature of hair plucking in public baths, describing the skinny armpit hair plucker, whose cries are shrill. The enduring appeal of hairless skin is evident not only in contemporary beauty trends, but also in the persistence of these ancient tools and practices. The tweezers discovered at Wroxeter, alongside other grooming implements like strigils, used for scraping oil and dirt from the skin, demonstrate a level of sophistication in personal care that challenges simplistic notions of Roman life. These objects were not mere luxuries. They represented an investment in appearance and social standing. As Cameron Moffat, curator at English Heritage, noted, these expensive tastes reflect the affluence of Wroxeter's residents. The meticulous removal of body hair was a labor-intensive process, requiring considerable time and resources, suggesting that it was prioritized by individuals seeking to emulate Roman ideals or distinguish themselves within their community. The discomfort associated with this practice is also well documented. Seneca's observation about the shrill cries accompanying hair plucking in public baths provides a visceral glimpse into the experience. While modern methods have undoubtedly reduced some of that pain, the fundamental principle remains. Achieving smooth skin often involves an element of discomfort. The Romans' preference for a clean-shaven appearance extended beyond facial hair. The removal of body hair, particularly among men engaged in wrestling, highlights its significance within Roman social norms and athletic pursuits. This echoes contemporary trends where laser treatments, waxing and shaving are commonplace, demonstrating a continued desire to conform to perceived beauty standards or achieve specific aesthetic goals. The sheer number of tweezers found at Wroxeter, over 50 pairs, underscores the widespread nature of this practice, suggesting that it was not merely an elite pursuit, but rather a common element of Roman British daily life. The prevalence of tweezers at Wroxeter and elsewhere in Roman Britain suggests a widespread adoption of hair removal practices that resonate with contemporary beauty routines. The Shropshire Star notes that these tweezers would have brought a tear to the eye of even the toughest battle-hardened centurion, underscoring the discomfort inherent in the process. While Seneca's writings offer insight into the public nature of this pain, the sheer volume of implements discovered indicates a deeply ingrained cultural significance beyond mere aesthetics. The expectation that men engaged in wrestling would remove body hair further highlights the Roman emphasis on physical presentation and adherence to perceived ideals. This practice, as Moffat observes, mirrors modern trends where various methods are employed to achieve similar results, albeit with advancements designed to mitigate some of the discomfort experienced by those seeking smooth skin. The Roman barber, known as a tonsor, occupied a place of surprising importance within daily life. While war, politics, and law often dominate our understanding of ancient Rome, personal appearance mattered greatly to its citizens. A man's beard, hairstyle, cleanliness, and general grooming could suggest his age, social position, or even his attitude toward Greek culture. The tonsor was more than just a razor wielder. He was part craftsman, part service worker, and often a collector of neighborhood gossip. His shop served as a meeting place where men might talk, wait, argue, and observe one another, a crucial function in a city where reputation carried significant weight. The labor that supported this emphasis on appearance wasn't solely the domain of free barbers. Roman grooming relied heavily on enslaved individuals. While some tonsors operated small public shops or served wealthier households directly, It's clear from surviving evidence that slaves played a vital role in maintaining the standards of masculine presentation expected by many citizens. A wealthy Roman might have kept household attendants, often enslaved people, specifically to manage his grooming needs. These individuals would assist with shaving, haircuts, and other tasks, effectively performing duties we associate with modern barbers or stylists. The responsibilities assigned to these slaves likely varied depending on the household's wealth and the individual's skill. Some might have been trained in specific techniques like hair cutting or beard trimming, while others assisted with more general grooming routines. The tonsor's work itself was intimate. He touched a customer's face, head, and neck, stood close to him, and helped shape his public image. This intimacy extended to the enslaved individuals assisting the barber, who would have been even closer in proximity and contact during these procedures. The expectation of a clean-shaven face became increasingly important among Roman men, particularly those seeking to appear respectable and disciplined. The ceremonial shaving of a young man's first beard, known as depositio barbae, marked his transition toward adult male status. While this ritual might have involved the tonsor, enslaved individuals would likely have been present to assist with preparations or manage the cut hair itself. Even for men who preferred beards, slaves were essential in maintaining their shape and neatness. The tools of the trade, razors, shears, combs, required skill to use effectively, and enslaved attendants might have helped prepare the customer's skin or clean up afterward. The presence of enslaved individuals extended beyond simply assisting the tonsor. They were integral to the entire process of male grooming, often managing tasks that facilitated a man's appearance before he even entered the barber shop. These duties could include preparing hot water for shaving, applying oils or lotions to soften facial hair, and gathering discarded clippings. The disposal of cut hair itself presented another responsibility delegated to enslaved attendants. It might be collected for later use in medicinal preparations or simply discarded as waste. Evidence suggests that some slaves were specifically trained as ornatores, individuals skilled in arranging and styling hair, a role particularly valuable within wealthier households where elaborate hairstyles became fashionable among men. While the tonsor focused on the technical aspects of shaving and cutting, these enslaved specialists contributed to the overall aesthetic presentation. The economic value placed upon such specialized skills meant that certain slaves might be highly prized possessions, representing significant investments for their owners. This specialization also highlights a hierarchy within the slave population. Those with sought-after skills commanded higher prices and potentially enjoyed slightly improved conditions compared to laborers performing less valued tasks. Literary references occasionally allude to enslaved individuals who were not only skilled in grooming, but also possessed knowledge of cosmetics or perfumes, further expanding their role in shaping a man's public image. The practice of hair removal and grooming extended beyond mere aesthetics within Roman society. It held a place in their religious observances. While literary sources occasionally mention elaborate hairstyles among men, archaeological evidence suggests that short hair was commonly worn. The treatment of hair wasn't solely about fashion, as specific rituals involved cutting or offering hair to deities. The deposition of the barber, or shaving of the beard, served as a significant rite of passage for young Roman men. This ceremony marked their transition into manhood and often occurred with considerable formality. Accounts indicate that emperors and other prominent figures performed this ritual at set times, and ordinary citizens emulated these actions, marking the occasion with festivities and feasts. A golden container, or pyx, was sometimes used to store the cut hair. a practice mirrored after Nero's own offering of his first beard clippings to Jupiter Capitolinus. Even those less affluent would preserve their lanugo, the fine downy hair, in containers made of glass. This ritualistic shaving extended beyond personal milestones. It also appeared within broader religious contexts. Accounts suggest that some Romans, particularly parents mourning a deceased son, recorded the age at which his beard was shaved in epitaphs, drawing parallels to imperial practices and emphasizing shared cultural customs. The act itself seemed imbued with symbolic significance, connecting individual rites of passage to larger expressions of piety and adherence to tradition. The importance of hair extended beyond beards. The cutting of a boy's long locks also held religious weight. While children were permitted to grow their hair long, its removal marked a transition into manhood. This severance was sometimes performed with formality, and under imperial rule, these clippings were frequently offered as sacrifices to deities. The act wasn't merely a stylistic change, but an offering, demonstrating devotion through the symbolic relinquishing of personal adornment. The practice of depositing a beard, or depositio barbae, extended beyond individual rites and imperial displays. It was also linked to broader societal perceptions of cleanliness and status. Accounts suggest that shaving, while not universally practiced among all social classes, the very poor often forgoing the expense, became increasingly common as Roman society evolved. While earlier Romans sometimes sported beards, by the late Republic and into the imperial period, a clean-shaven appearance became associated with refinement and civic participation. The anecdote of Scipio Aemilianus's daily shaving exemplifies this shift, demonstrating how personal grooming practices could become intertwined with notions of public duty and adherence to evolving cultural norms. Roman writers like Varro and Suetonius further reinforced the connection between cleanliness and status, noting that professional barbers initially arrived in Rome around 300 BCE, catering primarily to wealthy individuals who employed slaves skilled in hair care. These enslaved stylists commanded high prices, highlighting the value placed on meticulous grooming within elite circles. Even so, public barber shops emerged as social hubs for those of middling means, serving not only as places of personal maintenance, but also as venues for gossip and information exchange. Juvenal's satires and Martial's epigrams frequently referenced barbers, sometimes satirizing their ambition to rise in society through their trade, further illustrating the profession's integration into Roman social life. The tools themselves, iron razors requiring constant sharpening on stones, underscored a commitment to appearance that demanded ongoing effort and expense. The practice of depositing a beard held religious significance beyond individual rites of passage. Hair clippings themselves were sometimes offered to deities as votive offerings. Accounts suggest that individuals, particularly women, might present locks of hair at temples dedicated to specific gods or goddesses, signifying devotion and seeking divine favor. This act mirrored other forms of sacrifice common in Roman religion, where tangible goods were presented to the gods to secure blessings or appease their potential displeasure. While the precise deities most frequently associated with such offerings remain sparsely documented, the symbolic value of hair as a representation of vitality and personal identity likely underpinned its use in these rituals. The deposition of childhood locks upon assuming the toga virilis further reinforced this connection between physical transformation and religious observance, marking a transition into adulthood accompanied by formalized piety. The departure of Roman forces from Britain initiated a period of significant change across many aspects of life, and personal grooming was no exception. Prior to this withdrawal, Roman presence had introduced practices and tools that altered existing British customs related to appearance. One notable example was the prevalence of tweezers, an item largely absent before the Roman arrival. These instruments were utilized for removing unwanted body hair, a practice that became increasingly common during the later years of the empire, particularly among wealthier individuals. The widespread use of these tools reflects a shift in beauty standards influenced by Roman ideals of appearance. However, as Roman authority diminished and infrastructure crumbled, many aspects of their culture gradually faded from Britain. This decline extended to personal grooming habits, with the sophisticated routines once commonplace becoming less accessible and eventually disappearing altogether. The elaborate bathing rituals that had been introduced alongside tweezers were also impacted. Public bathhouses, a cornerstone of Roman hygiene and social life, fell into disrepair or ceased operation entirely. With them went many associated practices, including those involving specialized tools and techniques for hair removal and skin care. While the precise timeline remains unclear, archaeological evidence suggests a gradual reduction in the use of tweezers and other Roman grooming implements as the centuries passed following the end of Roman rule. The shift wasn't abrupt. It was a slow erosion of established customs intertwined with broader societal changes. The gradual decline of these practices was not uniform across Britain. While tweezers became less common, other aspects of Roman hygiene and appearance may have persisted to varying degrees within different communities. The continued use of olive oil, for example, as evidenced by archaeological finds, suggests that some individuals maintained elements of Roman skincare routines even in the absence of readily available Roman manufactured tools. Similarly, while public bathhouses disappeared, localized bathing practices likely continued, albeit on a smaller scale and utilizing simpler methods. The knowledge of strigils and their function may have been retained within certain families or communities, passed down through generations as part of a broader understanding of personal care. However, the widespread adoption of Roman grooming habits that had characterized the later years of the empire was undeniably curtailed by the disruption of trade networks and the loss of specialized skills associated with Roman production techniques. The shift also reflected evolving cultural values. As Roman influence waned, British customs related to appearance began to reassert themselves, potentially emphasizing different ideals of beauty than those previously imported from the Mediterranean world. While urine's use in cleaning and oral hygiene was a Roman practice that faded, other methods likely replaced it, though evidence for these replacements is scarce. The gradual decline in access to Roman grooming tools also likely influenced evolving perceptions of body hair and cleanliness. While Seneca's complaints about overly elaborate bathing practices reflect a specific viewpoint within Roman society, the broader trend following the empire's collapse suggests a shift away from such meticulous routines. The resources required for frequent bathing, including olive oil and potentially attendants to assist with procedures like strigil use or hair plucking, became increasingly scarce. This likely led to a simplification of personal care practices across many regions of Britain. While some individuals may have continued to employ Roman techniques sporadically, the widespread adoption of these habits diminished as trade networks fractured and specialized labor disappeared. The absence of readily available tweezers also meant that methods for removing unwanted hair would have been less precise or efficient than those afforded by the Roman tools. Alternative approaches, if pursued at all, might have involved using sharpened stones or shells to pluck hairs, a process likely to be more painful and yielding less satisfactory results compared to the use of metal tweezers. The cultural value placed on body hair may also have changed over time. As Roman ideals faded, British customs related to appearance began to reassert themselves, potentially leading to different standards regarding body hair removal or grooming in general. The Wroxeter Roman City Museum recently underwent a significant renovation, and among the objects now on display are over 50 pairs of tweezers, one of the largest collections found in Britain. These seemingly small artifacts offer a surprising glimpse into daily life in Roman Britain, revealing habits and preferences that extended to both men and women. While we often associate meticulous grooming with modern sensibilities, the Romans clearly shared a similar preoccupation with appearance. The tweezers themselves were not solely for eyebrow shaping. They served a broader purpose in removing unwanted body hair. This practice was influenced by trends originating in Rome itself, where a clean-shaven look was favored as a means of distinguishing Roman citizens from those considered barbarians. The act of plucking, however, was far from pleasant. Seneca, a Roman author and politician, once described the sounds emanating from public baths, including the skinny armpit hair plucker, whose cries are shrill. This suggests that hair removal was often a painful process, requiring considerable patience and potentially performed by slaves. The tweezers represented a comparatively safe, simple, and inexpensive method, though not entirely painless. The sheer number of tweezers discovered at Wroxeter raises intriguing questions. Who used them? Were they owned by wealthy individuals who could afford such tools, or were they more widespread among the population? While the residents of Wroxeter appear to have been wealthy, sophisticated people, as described by curator Cameron Moffat, it's difficult to determine precisely how prevalent this grooming practice was across different social strata. The discovery of over 400 artifacts at the site, including perfume bottles, strigils for skin scraping, and jewelry, suggests a broader interest in personal hygiene and aesthetics than might be immediately apparent from studying Roman Britain. The sheer number of tweezers discovered at Wroxeter raises intriguing questions. While Cameron Moffat notes that over 50 pairs have been found, this quantity alone doesn't definitively reveal the extent of hair removal practices among the town's inhabitants. The presence of strigil, perfume bottles, and jewelry suggests an interest in personal appearance, but it remains unclear whether tweezers were ubiquitous or primarily used by a specific segment of society. It is possible that some individuals possessed multiple sets, perhaps for different purposes or as status symbols. Further analysis of the tweezers themselves, examining wear patterns on the blades, for example, might offer clues about their frequency and intensity of use, though such investigations are currently limited. The discovery of Roman water pipes serving the bathhouse also indicates a level of infrastructure supporting personal hygiene routines that could have facilitated hair removal. While it is stated that men participated in this practice, particularly those engaged in wrestling, the evidence does not specify how widespread this expectation was or whether participation varied by social class. The prevalence of tweezers at Wroxeter suggests a degree of personal care that extended beyond basic hygiene, though the specific social implications remain difficult to ascertain definitively. While Seneca's observation regarding the discomfort associated with hair removal offers a glimpse into Roman attitudes toward the practice, it does not provide direct insight into its distribution within Wroxeter's population. The discovery of Roman water pipes serving the bathhouse further supports the notion that infrastructure facilitated personal grooming routines, but whether this access was equitable across social strata is unknown. It's also unclear if the individuals who possessed these tools were themselves performing the hair removal or employing others to do so, Seneca's reference to a skinny armpit hair plucker implies the existence of specialized labor within Roman society, and it's plausible that such services were available in Wroxeter. The sheer number of tweezers found, over 50 pairs according to Cameron Moffat, indicates either widespread ownership or potential loss over time, making precise estimations about usage patterns challenging. The Roman barber, known as a tonsor, occupied a place within daily life that extended beyond simply cutting hair or shaving beards. A man's appearance, his beard, hairstyle, cleanliness, communicated aspects of his age, social position, and even his attitude toward Greek culture or traditional Roman customs. The tonstrina, the barber's shop, served as more than just a place for grooming. It was a space where men met, talked, listened, argued, and observed one another. Reputation carried significant weight in Rome, so grooming became a public act tied to identity and social judgment. The work of a tonsor could include cutting hair, shaving beards, trimming facial hair, removing unwanted hair, cleaning or cutting nails, and occasionally other small tasks. Not all barbers held the same standing. Some worked in public shops, others on streets or markets, while still others served wealthier households directly. A wealthy Roman might employ enslaved attendants to manage their grooming, whereas a more ordinary man visited a barber shop when he could afford it. Even those with limited resources cared about appearance, though their options were shaped by finances and access to skilled service. The act of shaving itself was not always comfortable or precise. Ancient literature contains jokes about bad barbers, trembling hands and faces covered in nicks, reminding us that the process often involved risk. A razor in the ancient world was a dangerous tool, and a careless barber could cause irritation or worse. The tonsor's work also required trust. He touched a customer's face, head, and neck, stood close to him, helping shape the public image others would see. This intimacy made his labor more significant than it might initially appear. He helped produce the Roman male appearance, an appearance carrying social meaning. The barber shop functioned as a small center of neighborhood conversation. Men waiting their turn discussed politics, lawsuits, local scandals, business, and military news. In a city where reputation moved quickly, the barber shop served as a place to gather information. This role was comparable to other public spaces like the baths or forum, which helped create Rome's everyday public culture. A visit to the barber could involve more than grooming. It placed a man within a stream of news and casual networking, important because Roman society depended heavily on personal relationships. The tonsor's skill extended beyond simply wielding a blade. It involved an understanding of Roman aesthetics and social signaling. A man requesting a shave might also ask for advice on his hairline or beard shape, seeking to project an image of authority or youthfulness depending on his goals. While the barber's primary role was maintenance, he functioned as a minor advisor in matters of appearance, reinforcing societal expectations about masculinity. The tonstrina itself offered limited privacy. Customers were exposed while being groomed, and conversations often drifted from one man to another. This lack of seclusion meant that a tonsor had to be discreet when dealing with sensitive information or personal requests, maintaining a professional distance even within the intimacy of his trade. A barber's reputation depended not only on skill, but also on trustworthiness. Gossip overheard in the shop could damage reputations and affect business. The social dynamics were complex, requiring negotiation between the needs of clients and the constraints of public space. The tonsu's skill extended beyond mere manipulation of hair and skin. It involved a practical understanding of materials available for cosmetic enhancement, though these were generally simpler than modern options. Evidence suggests that some barbers utilized natural dyes derived from plants to tint hair or facial hair, offering clients the ability to subtly alter their appearance, a practice likely driven by shifting fashion trends or individual preferences. While descriptions of specific recipes are scarce, literary references indicate a familiarity with pigments extracted from saffron, henna, and other readily accessible flora. The application of these substances would have been another layer in the tonsur's skill set, requiring an understanding not only of color theory, but also of how different skin tones reacted to various dyes. Furthermore, some barbers may have prepared or sold simple oils and unguents intended for softening hair or soothing irritated skin post-shave, further expanding their role beyond that of a mere craftsman. The appearance of body hair held a specific significance within Roman society, inextricably linked to ideas about civilization and status. While elaborate hairstyles for both men and women shifted constantly throughout the imperial period, allowing scholars to date artistic representations, the presence or absence of body hair conveyed messages just as potent. The very act of maintaining one's appearance through grooming was a demonstration of participation in Roman culture, distinguishing those who embraced its values from what Romans considered barbarians. This distinction wasn't merely aesthetic, it reflected broader assumptions about refinement and morality. A natural style, meaning unshaven or untrimmed body hair, became associated with individuals perceived as lacking the sophistication and resources to engage in proper grooming practices. This perception extended beyond mere aesthetics, implying a deficiency in cultural understanding and social standing. The Romans believed that those who neglected their bodies lacked the means, both financial and intellectual, to cultivate an elegant appearance. Consequently, keeping one's body hair at bay became a visible marker of belonging within Roman society. For women, this emphasis on grooming was particularly pronounced. While men generally maintained short haircuts as a symbol of civilization, female hairstyles were complex constructions requiring considerable time and effort. Enslaved individuals, ornatresses, would spend hours each day styling their mistress's hair into elaborate arrangements, even removing gray hairs to maintain an appearance of youthfulness. This dedication to beauty served as a display of wealth and social status, demonstrating the ability to afford both the labor and the materials necessary for such meticulous upkeep. Roman men kept their facial hair minimal, and the removal of other bodily hairs was a common practice, signifying refinement. While shaving wasn't universally adopted throughout Roman history, periods saw fluctuations in acceptable male grooming standards. The trend toward smooth skin became increasingly prevalent as an indicator of civilization. The use of pumice stones to exfoliate the body further contributed to this ideal, demonstrating a commitment to meticulous personal care. This emphasis on removing unwanted hair reinforced social hierarchies and signaled adherence to Roman cultural norms. Depictions in art frequently portray idealized male figures with clean-shaven faces and bodies, solidifying the association between physical smoothness and virtue. The practice of epilation, plucking hairs from the body, was a common method employed by both men and women, often performed by enslaved individuals specifically trained for this task. These vilici possessed the skill to remove hair with relative speed and precision, further emphasizing the labor involved in maintaining Roman standards of beauty. The tools used were rudimentary, typically made from bronze or iron, and the process was undoubtedly painful, yet it was undertaken as a necessary ritual for social acceptance. Accounts suggest that some Romans may have experimented with depilatory creams composed of natural ingredients, but their effectiveness and safety remain uncertain. Recipes often included potentially caustic substances, highlighting the risks associated with such practices. The prevalence of scars and skin irritations among Roman individuals may be attributed in part to the widespread use of epilation and experimental depilatories. The association of natural hair with barbarians underscored Roman ideals of civilization and order, reinforcing the necessity of elaborate grooming rituals for social inclusion. Specialized ornatrices managed male hairstyles daily, performing tasks that included plucking gray hairs alongside more complex styling procedures. Accounts suggest that Emperor Lucius Verus reportedly sprinkled gold dust on his naturally blonde hair to enhance its appearance, a demonstration of wealth and status achieved through meticulous manipulation. Barbary was introduced to Rome by Publius Titinius Menas, who brought a barber from the Greek colonies in Sicily. Barber shops clustered around public spaces like the Temple of Flora and Circus Maximus, serving as hubs for both grooming services and social interaction. Plautus's plays offer glimpses into these establishments, depicting scenes where customers received haircuts alongside news and gossip, a testament to the barber's role in disseminating information within Roman society. Emperor Domitian attempted to regulate barbershop practices, issuing decrees intended to prevent disruptions caused by razors being drawn in crowded areas, illustrating a recognition of their potential for both social benefit and public disturbance. To begin the haircut, a customer would step on a low stool. The barber would place a wrapper around them to protect their toga. He would proceed to comb through the hair while asking what should be done with it. Most Romans liked their hairs to be of even length. Sometimes the head or eyebrows were shaved. Aside from cutting hair, Roman barbers cleaned and pared nails using special knives. Corns were also cut, stray hairs plucked, and warts removed. Shears were used to cut the hair on the crown of the head. At the end, a mirror was held up so that the customer could judge the quality of their work. The barber would also use curling irons, tweezers, and razors. Each razor had its own case. Dyeing hair was popular among women, although frequent dyeing often made it weaker. Tertullian discussed a hair dye that burnt the scalp. Artificial colors were applied as powders and gels. Henna, or animal fat, could be used to make the hair more manageable. To prevent graying, some Romans wore a paste at night made from herbs and earthworms. Pigeon dung was also used to lighten hair. Wigs allowed women to better achieve tall styles that punctuated certain eras. These wigs were often made from human hair, with blonde hair from Germany and black from India particularly prized. Roman prostitutes dyed their hair yellow to indicate their profession. The calamistrum, a Roman curling iron, consisted of hollow metal cylinders used to curl the hair. Frequent use could damage it. Hairnets and pins were also common, with poorer women using wooden pins, while the aristocracy favored gold, ivory, crystal, or painted bone. The routines of daily life in Roman Britain were deeply intertwined with practices we might consider both grooming and health today. While elaborate rituals involving cosmetics and perfumes existed, a more fundamental connection between personal cleanliness and well-being was also present. Men bathed frequently, viewing it as their primary form of body care, alongside adornment like signet rings. Women, particularly those of the upper class, devoted considerable time to hair preparation and appearance. However, bathing in Roman Britain wasn't solely about aesthetics. It served a practical purpose related to hygiene. Romans generally avoided soap, opting instead for olive oil and a scraping tool. A wet sponge on a stick replaced toilet paper. The public baths themselves played a significant role in disease prevention. These weren't simply places of leisure, but communal spaces where the practice of cleaning with oil and a strigil, a curved blade used to scrape dirt and sweat from the skin, was commonplace. Men and women alike would cover their bodies in oil before scraping it away, removing impurities. The collection of this oily residue, interestingly, wasn't discarded. It was repurposed as conditioner for women's hair. Beyond bathing, specific grooming practices also had hygiene implications. One such practice involved the use of tweezers to remove unwanted body hair, a custom not previously present in Britain before Roman influence. These tools, along with nail cleaners and ear picks, were unearthed by archaeologists, offering insight into Roman habits. The Romans believed urine could whiten teeth, leading to its widespread use as a mouthwash and even incorporated into toothpaste recipes. While the practice seems unusual today, it reflects a different understanding of hygiene in that era. The widespread use of urine also extended to textile cleaning. Researchers note that Romans would mix water and urine to wash clothes, a practice reflecting their understanding of its properties as a cleaning agent. This resourcefulness highlights an era where waste was often repurposed rather than discarded. The collection of urine even became a taxable commodity under Emperor Vespasian, demonstrating its economic significance within Roman society. Beyond the baths and personal grooming routines, specific tools like ear picks, fashioned from bronze, bone, or glass, reveal further aspects of Roman hygiene practices. These implements were used to remove wax, and archaeologists suggest they may have served multiple purposes, such as extracting oil or perfume from small containers. The discovery of these tools, often in sets resembling rings of keys, indicates their status as essential grooming accessories for both men and women on the move. While some contemporary Roman writers express disapproval of certain practices, like Seneca's critique of excessive noise at bathhouses, including complaints about skinny armpit hair pluckers, such accounts provide a glimpse into societal attitudes toward appearance and personal care. The prevalence of these tools and routines underscores their integration into daily life across various social strata within Roman Britain. The prevalence of ear picks also suggests a concern with hygiene extending beyond simply removing visible dirt. Wax buildup could impede hearing and potentially contribute to infections, though direct evidence linking these tools to specific health outcomes remains elusive. Similarly, while Seneca's disdain for those engaged in hair removal highlights societal discomfort with certain grooming practices, the continued use of tweezers indicates their perceived value despite such criticism. The discovery of toiletry sets containing implements like tweezers, nail cleaners, and ear picks further underscores the integration of these routines into daily life, suggesting that even individuals who might have encountered disapproval for excessive attention to appearance still participated in these practices. Accounts from Roman writers reveal a complex interplay between personal hygiene, social norms, and moral judgments, providing valuable insights into the cultural context surrounding grooming habits in Roman Britain. The expansion of the Roman Empire facilitated a remarkable exchange, not just of goods and people, but also of practices and tools. Among these was the simple yet significant implement we know as tweezers. While their precise origins remain debated among historians, evidence suggests that tweezers didn't exist in Britain before the Roman conquest. Their arrival coincided with Rome's imperial reach, demonstrating how interconnected ancient societies were through trade and military expansion. The Romans themselves placed considerable value on personal grooming, a practice that evolved over time. Early Roman habits were comparatively simple, but as the empire grew, so did concerns surrounding bathing, jewelry, and cosmetics. This shift is reflected in the archaeological record. Discoveries of toiletry sets containing tweezers alongside nail cleaners and ear picks reveal their integration into daily routines. The tools themselves varied in construction, with archaeologists uncovering both bronze and other materials used in their creation. The spread of Roman grooming habits wasn't limited to elite circles. While Seneca expressed disapproval of excessive attention to appearance, particularly the practice of armpit hair plucking, the continued use of tweezers suggests a widespread desire for personal refinement. The tools were not merely functional, they became part of a cultural exchange, adopted and adapted by those living under Roman rule. Even in regions like Britain, where Roman influence was felt keenly, unique variations emerged, such as the distinctive V-shaped nail cleaner found at sites in Gloucestershire, an innovation seemingly specific to that region. This localized adaptation highlights how imported practices were not simply replicated but also modified within new cultural contexts. The widespread adoption of grooming tools like tweezers also reveals insights into Roman attitudes toward hygiene and bodily functions, which evolved considerably over time. Early Romans adhered to simpler practices, but by the height of the empire, elaborate rituals surrounding bathing, jewelry, and cosmetics became increasingly prevalent. This shift is evidenced in accounts detailing the use of olive oil and fat as cleansing agents, with ancient texts noting Hippocrates' extensive list of uses for olive oil, including its application for skin moisturization and protection. The practice extended to athletes and bathhouse patrons, who would coat themselves in oil before scraping away dirt and sweat using a strigil. Interestingly, the oil collected from men's bodies during these cleansing rituals was sometimes repurposed as conditioner for women's hair, highlighting an unusual form of resourcefulness within Roman society. Beyond olive oil, urine also played a surprising role in Roman hygiene practices. While seemingly unconventional by modern standards, it served as a key ingredient in cleaning clothes and even teeth whitening. The practice became so ingrained that the Roman government imposed taxes on its collection, demonstrating its economic significance. Accounts suggest Romans mixed urine with pumice to create a rudimentary toothpaste, believing it would prevent tooth decay, a belief that persisted for centuries. Though considered distasteful today, these practices underscore the resourcefulness and unique perspectives of ancient societies regarding cleanliness and personal care. The prevalence of such methods also speaks to the limited availability of alternative cleaning agents at the time. The widespread adoption of these practices and tools across the Roman Empire demonstrates a significant exchange of knowledge and material culture facilitated by trade routes and military expansion. Archaeological finds, such as tweezers discovered in Britain, corroborate this interconnectedness, indicating that grooming habits previously confined to specific regions were disseminated throughout conquered territories. The presence of strigils in graves from Bulgaria further underscores the movement of these objects beyond Italy's borders, suggesting a broader cultural influence extending into the Roman Empire's eastern provinces. Accounts detailing the collection and reuse of men's sweat for women's hair conditioners exemplify the resourcefulness fostered by imperial trade networks, where materials were repurposed across social strata and geographical locations. The significance of urine in cleaning practices, evidenced by its taxation under Emperor Vespasian, highlights how even unconventional resources became integrated into the empire's economic system through trade and distribution channels. The archaeological record reveals a surprising detail about Roman life, an intense focus on personal grooming. While we often picture legions marching and emperors ruling, everyday Romans also dedicated considerable time to maintaining their appearance. At Wroxeter Roman city in Shropshire, England, recent renovations have unearthed a remarkable collection of ancient tweezers, over 50 pairs alone, demonstrating the prevalence of hair removal across Roman Britain. These weren't simply tools for removing stray eyebrow hairs, they were instruments used for extensive body depilation. The process itself was painstaking and required considerable skill. The tweezers, simple in design yet crucial to their function, allowed for precise targeting of individual hairs. Unlike modern waxing or shaving, plucking demanded a steady hand and an understanding of hair growth patterns. Roman Britons followed trends originating in Rome itself, striving for a clean-shaven aesthetic that distinguished them from those considered barbarians. This preference extended beyond facial hair. The removal of body hair was common among both men and women, particularly amongst those participating in activities like wrestling where minimal clothing exposed the skin. The advantage of tweezers lay in their simplicity. They were safe, cheap, and readily available, though undeniably painful. A Roman author and politician, Seneca, once remarked on the noise emanating from public baths, specifically noting the skinny armpit hair plucker, whose cries are shrill. This anecdote, while brief, underscores the discomfort associated with this practice. The tweezers themselves were likely crafted from bronze or iron, materials readily available and workable with Roman technology. While English Heritage's collection at Wroxeter includes over 50 pairs, individual tools would have varied slightly in size and shape, depending on their intended use, some finer for eyebrow work, others more robust for tackling larger areas of body hair. The process was not solely the domain of women. Seneca's observation suggests men also sought this smooth aesthetic, though the labor often fell to slaves within households or specialized workers offering services at public baths. These individuals would have developed a practiced skill, minimizing discomfort and ensuring even results, a testament to the demand for precision in Roman beauty practices. The sheer volume of tweezers discovered underscores not only the popularity of hair removal, but also potentially indicates a degree of specialization in this service. Some individuals may have earned their living primarily through providing these grooming services. Beyond simply removing unwanted hairs, skilled practitioners would likely have shaped eyebrows and other facial features according to prevailing fashions, a form of rudimentary cosmetic artistry. The meticulous nature of the work highlights that Roman ideals of beauty extended beyond mere cleanliness. It involved deliberate shaping and refinement of the body's appearance. The skill involved extended beyond simple hair removal. A practitioner's ability to shape and contour facial features aligned with evolving Roman aesthetics was valued. While precise details of these fashionable ideals remain elusive, evidence suggests that eyebrow shaping played a significant role in conveying status and attractiveness. The tweezers themselves, crafted from iron, would have required careful manipulation to achieve the desired effect. A slight arch here, a subtle taper there, demanding both dexterity and an understanding of visual harmony. Furthermore, the process was not without risk. Improper technique could lead to injury or infection, underscoring the importance of experience and competence in those offering this service. The sheer number of tweezers found at Wroxeter suggests that the demand for these services extended across various social strata, from wealthy households employing dedicated slaves to public bathhouses, catering to a broader clientele seeking cosmetic enhancement. The demand for cosmetic enhancement extended across Roman society, from wealthy households employing slaves to public bathhouses, catering to a broader clientele. Among those providing this service were hair pluckers, individuals whose labor focused on shaping and maintaining facial hair according to prevailing fashions, while their occupation's origins remain obscure. Manipulating eyebrows and other facial hair was an integral part of Roman grooming practices. The role of these laborers within Roman society wasn't straightforward. They served both elite and common clients, occupying a space between enslaved domestic workers and independent artisans. Evidence suggests that wealthier households often employed slaves specifically tasked with personal grooming, including plucking unwanted hairs. These individuals would have possessed considerable skill, as the process demanded dexterity and an understanding of aesthetics, a slight arch here, a subtle taper there, to achieve the desired effect. However, hair pluckers also worked in public bathhouses, extending their services to those who couldn't afford a personal slave or private visit. This created a dynamic. They served the powerful while catering to ordinary citizens seeking to emulate elite styles within their means. The tools of their trade, tweezers crafted from iron, were relatively simple but required careful handling. Improper technique could lead to injury or infection, underscoring the importance of experience and competence. This expertise likely commanded a degree of respect, even if hair pluckers themselves were not considered part of the upper echelons of Roman society. The very act of shaping someone's appearance placed them in an intimate position, requiring trust and discretion on both sides. While we lack specific accounts detailing their daily interactions or personal lives, it's reasonable to assume they developed working relationships with their clients, learning preferences and anticipating needs. Their status was likely tied to the demand for fashionable hairstyles. As trends shifted, so too would the skills required of them, necessitating adaptability and ongoing practice. The tools themselves offered a glimpse into social distinctions. While iron tweezers were standard, wealthier clients might have access to more finely crafted instruments made of bronze or even silver, though evidence for such elaborate implements remains scarce. The presence of acius, large sewing needles used in complex hairstyles, further highlights this disparity. While not exclusive to elite households, their use likely increased with the intricacy of a style and the client's ability to pay. Discoveries from tombs reveal that hairpins were frequently included as grave goods, suggesting their value extended beyond mere functionality, perhaps representing status or personal adornment in the afterlife. The materials varied: bone, bronze, glass, reflecting the economic range of those interred. Beyond the tools themselves, receiving grooming services signaled a degree of leisure and disposable income. While bathhouses provided access for many, the time commitment involved, both for the client and the hair plucker, represented an investment that not all could afford. The efficiency with which a hair plucker worked likely depended on their clientele. Serving a noblewoman, requiring hours of intricate styling, would differ significantly from attending to a commoner seeking a quick trim. This disparity in service time, and therefore earnings, further stratified the position of the hair plucker within Roman society, a laborer whose income fluctuated with the demands of fashion and social standing. Discoveries from archaeological sites suggest that some hair pluckers may have specialized in particular techniques or styles, catering to specific clientele and commanding higher fees for their expertise. Evidence indicates that certain individuals were skilled at creating complex braids and curls using natural hair rather than extensions, a talent likely prized by those seeking authenticity and refinement in their appearance. The tools used to achieve these intricate designs, acis, combs of varying fineness, and small bronze implements, have been found alongside skeletal remains, hinting at the possibility that some hair pluckers were buried with their working equipment, perhaps reflecting a degree of professional pride. or recognition within their community. The pursuit of beauty and cleanliness in Roman society extended to practices with unexpected environmental consequences. While daily bathing was a common ritual, the methods employed left a mark on the landscape and resource use. Romans did not utilize soap as we understand it today. Instead, they relied primarily on olive oil for cleansing, scraping away residue with tools called strigils. The disposal of this oily mixture, often collected from men's bodies in public baths, led to its reuse as a conditioner for women's hair. This cycle, while seemingly resourceful, contributed to the accumulation of organic waste and potential pollution within waterways. Beyond bathing, Roman grooming routines involved meticulous attention to body hair removal. The widespread adoption of tweezers, initially introduced by the Romans during their conquests, demonstrates a cultural shift in aesthetic ideals. These tools, used for plucking unwanted hairs, became commonplace throughout the empire, spreading practices previously unknown in certain regions like Britain. This demand for tweezers spurred resource extraction and processing. The bronze from which they were crafted required mining and refining, processes that invariably impacted local environments. The sheer volume of discarded tweezers over time would have added to archaeological layers, a subtle but persistent record of Roman grooming habits. Perhaps more strikingly, the Romans employed urine in several cleaning rituals. Collected in vessels set out for public use, it was mixed with water to clean clothes and served as a teeth-whitening agent. The scale of this practice is difficult to fully grasp, but it undoubtedly involved significant quantities of liquid waste concentrated within urban areas. While some might view this as an ingenious recycling method, the disposal of urine-laden wastewater likely contributed to localized pollution and potential health hazards. Furthermore, the collection process itself required labor and infrastructure, adding another layer of resource consumption to Roman grooming practices. The widespread use of urine also extended to textile production, a process demanding considerable water and generating substantial wastewater. As noted by researchers examining Roman sanitation practices, urine's properties were exploited in tanning processes, further contributing to concentrated waste streams within urban centers. The scale of these operations, while not precisely quantified in surviving records, likely amplified the environmental impact associated with Roman grooming rituals. Furthermore, the extraction of materials for tools and cosmetics, bronze for tweezers, olive oil for cleansing, pigments for makeup required labor, energy expenditure, and resource depletion across a vast geographical area. The production of even seemingly simple items like bronze tweezers necessitated mining operations that altered landscapes and potentially polluted waterways. Similarly, olive oil cultivation demanded extensive agricultural land and water resources, while the sourcing of pigments from distant locales involved long-distance transportation with associated environmental consequences. While Roman ingenuity undoubtedly led to innovations in resource management, the sheer scale of the empire's population and its consumption patterns placed significant strain on natural systems, a burden subtly exacerbated by seemingly minor practices like hair removal and teeth whitening. The widespread adoption of these practices across the Roman Empire generated a cascade of environmental consequences extending beyond localized waste accumulation. As noted by researchers examining sanitation infrastructure, the collection and transport of urine, a critical component in both textile production and dental hygiene, demanded significant logistical effort and resource expenditure. While specific quantities remain elusive due to limitations in surviving documentation, the sheer scale of Roman urban centers suggests a substantial demand for this material, necessitating dedicated collection systems and potentially impacting water resources used for transportation. Furthermore, the reliance on olive oil cultivation for cleansing and hair conditioning placed considerable pressure on Mediterranean ecosystems. Extensive groves required land clearing, irrigation infrastructure, and intensive agricultural practices that could contribute to soil erosion and deforestation. The extraction of bronze for tweezers also carried environmental implications. Mining activities disrupted landscapes, generated waste tailings, and potentially polluted waterways with heavy metals. Though Roman metallurgical techniques evolved over time, the fundamental processes remained resource-intensive, leaving a lasting mark on affected regions. Even seemingly minor aspects of grooming routines, such as the use of pigments derived from distant locales for cosmetics, contributed to environmental strain through long-distance transportation networks that relied on ships and pack animals, each with its own ecological footprint. The cumulative effect of these practices, while difficult to quantify precisely, underscores the interconnectedness between Roman society's pursuit of personal appearance and the natural world. The appearance of hair held significant meaning within Roman funerary practices. While hairstyles and facial hair varied across time periods, their treatment at death followed established customs. Accounts indicate that when a boy reached manhood and donned the toga, his long locks were cut off. Sometimes with ritualistic formality, under the empire, these clippings were frequently offered to a deity. This act of cutting was not merely cosmetic, but carried symbolic weight, marking a transition and potentially signifying an offering or dedication. The broader Roman attitude toward hair extended beyond personal style. The practice of shaving itself held particular significance in mourning rituals. When someone died, those grieving would allow their beards to grow long and unshorn as a visible sign of sorrow. This outward display of grief was part of the prescribed mourning garb, demonstrating respect for the deceased and acknowledging loss within the community. Even the poorest Romans might forego shaving during periods of bereavement, reflecting a widespread custom rather than an indication of poverty alone. Further illustrating this connection to death, the first shave for a young man was commemorated with a ritual known as Depositio Barbae. This ceremony involved cutting off a boy's hair and beard, marking his entrance into adulthood. The clippings themselves were sometimes treated with reverence. One Roman, Trimalchio, even preserved his lanugo, the fine downy hair of childhood, in a golden pyx alongside household deities. While this practice may have been more elaborate among wealthier families, it underscores the value placed on hair and its association with significant life transitions, including death. The practice of Depositio Barbae, while seemingly a personal rite, also reflected broader societal values concerning masculinity and piety. Accounts suggest that families would host feasts and celebrations to mark this transition for young men, signifying their entry into adulthood and communal responsibility. While wealthier families might dedicate the clippings to household deities in ornate containers, as exemplified by Trimalchio's preservation of his lanugo, poorer families likely performed a simpler offering or disposal ritual. The act itself was not merely about severing hair. It represented a symbolic shedding of boyhood and an acceptance of adult obligations within Roman society. Furthermore, the tools used in this ceremony, razors and shears, were themselves objects worthy of consideration. While bronze implements predate the Roman era, iron instruments became prevalent during the period, though their perishable nature means fewer examples survive archaeologically compared to earlier artifacts. The process of shaving was not always straightforward. Plutarch recounts an anecdote illustrating that even wealthy individuals like Marcus Antonius Creticus sometimes employed deceptive methods to acquire resources, highlighting the potential for social maneuvering surrounding even seemingly commonplace practices such as grooming. Roman barbers utilized honed stones and water in their work, a stark contrast to later developments involving soaps or oils. The barber's shop itself served as more than just a place of personal care. It functioned as a communal hub where individuals gathered to exchange news and socialize, demonstrating the intertwining of daily routines with social interaction. The practice of depositing a beard, known as depositio barbae, held significance beyond a simple haircut. It marked a transition for young men, mirroring imperial rituals and signifying entry into adulthood. Accounts suggest that individuals emulated emperors like Augustus and Nero by consecrating their first beards to deities, often storing the clippings in containers, golden for the wealthy, glass for those with fewer resources. While archaeological evidence of Roman razors is scarce due to their iron construction and subsequent corrosion, literary sources provide insight into shaving practices. Pliny the Elder noted that Scipio Aemilianus was among the first Romans to shave daily, a custom later adopted by prominent figures like Caesar and Augustus, reflecting an adherence to Greek cultural influences. The barber's tools, iron razors honed on stones lubricated with saliva, necessitated preliminary wetting of the face with water, contrasting sharply with later developments involving soaps or oils. The clean-shaven face became strongly associated with Roman male respectability, especially among the elite. A smooth face could suggest discipline, civic order, and adult participation in public life. While beards were sometimes fashionable, Emperor Hadrian notably popularized them under Greek cultural influence. The ideal for much of the Republic and early Empire was a carefully maintained lack of facial hair. This preference extended to other aspects of appearance. Roman men sought to present themselves as orderly and disciplined. The Roman barber, known as a tonsor, played a crucial role in achieving this standard. His work included shaving beards, trimming facial hair, and removing unwanted hair. The tools available were simple compared to modern equipment: razors for shaving, shears or scissors for cutting hair, combs for arranging it, and implements like tweezers for detailed grooming. A barber's skill was paramount. A careless hand could result in cuts or irritation, highlighting the inherent risks of ancient shaving practices. Beyond simply providing a service, the tonsor occupied a unique social position. His shop served as a gathering place where men might meet, talk about politics and local news, and observe one another. This role connected grooming to identity and social judgment within a society deeply concerned with reputation and status. The barber helped shape the public image of Roman men, contributing to their presentation in public life. While some barbers worked in small shops or markets, others served wealthier households directly, reflecting the varied economic landscape of Rome. The emphasis on a clean-shaven face and carefully managed hair did not eliminate the use of tweezers. Rather, it intensified their application. While razors addressed larger areas of facial or bodily hair, tweezers remained essential for achieving the precise level of grooming expected within Roman society. The removal of stray hairs around the eyebrows, along the jawline, and on other parts of the body contributed to the overall impression of orderliness that Romans valued. Evidence suggests that even among poorer citizens who might forego regular visits to a tonsor, the use of simple tweezers for minor adjustments remained relatively common. The availability of tweezers likely fluctuated alongside broader economic conditions and access to metalworking skills. While elaborate, ornate tweezers crafted from bronze or precious metals were status symbols possessed by wealthier individuals, simpler versions made from iron or other readily available materials would have been more accessible to the general population. The durability of these tools was a factor. A poorly constructed pair could quickly become useless, requiring replacement and potentially limiting their widespread use in less affluent households. The social role of the tonsor also influenced the continued demand for tweezers. A skilled barber would utilize them as part of his service to refine a client's appearance, removing fine hairs that a razor or shears might miss. This created an expectation among male clients that a certain level of precision was necessary, further reinforcing the value placed on these instruments. While some men may have attempted this work themselves, relying on rudimentary tools, many preferred to entrust it to a professional who possessed both expertise and a sharper set of implements. The decline in the use of tweezers following the collapse of Roman authority wasn't an abrupt event, but rather a gradual process intertwined with broader societal shifts. The disintegration of centralized governance led to disruptions in trade networks, impacting the availability of raw materials needed for tool production. Furthermore, as traditional Roman social structures dissolved and new cultural norms emerged among successor populations, the emphasis on meticulous grooming diminished. While some aspects of Roman personal care practices were adopted or adapted by various groups, the level of precision associated with tweezers was often lost or simplified. The skills required to produce high-quality tweezers also likely declined due to a lack of demand and specialized craftsmanship. The disappearance of tweezers from daily life following the decline of Roman authority wasn't an abrupt event, but rather a gradual process intertwined with broader societal shifts. While some aspects of Roman personal care practices were adopted or adapted by various groups, the level of precision associated with tweezers was often lost or simplified. Yet, the legacy of those who wielded them, the tonsors, the Roman barbers, resonates in unexpected ways within modern society. Roman barbers occupied a small but surprisingly important place in daily life. A man's beard, hairstyle, cleanliness, and general grooming could suggest his age, social position, moral seriousness, political identity, and even his attitude toward Greek culture or old Roman tradition. The tonsor was more than just someone with a razor. He was part craftsman, part service worker, part gossip collector, and part fixture of neighborhood life. His shop, the tonstrina, served as a meeting place where men might talk, wait, listen, argue, and observe one another. The Roman barber's work included cutting hair, shaving beards, trimming facial hair, removing unwanted hair, cleaning or cutting nails, and sometimes carrying out other small grooming tasks. This intimate labor involved touching the face, head, and neck of a customer standing close to him and helping shape the public image others would see. A clean-shaven face became strongly associated with Roman male respectability, especially among the elite, suggesting discipline, civic order, and adult participation in public life. The tools of a Roman barber were simple compared with modern equipment, but they included shears or scissors to cut hair, combs to arrange it, and implements for detailed grooming, including tweezers. The quality of these tools mattered. A sharp razor could produce a respectable result, while a poor blade could cause irritation. A man who emerged clean-shaven, neatly trimmed, and properly arranged was presenting himself as someone who belonged within the expectations of Roman civic life. The emphasis on controlled appearance connects closely with Roman clothing. While men might wear appropriate attire for their status, hair and facial presentation still needed to match that dignity. The tonsor helped create this message, one shave or haircut at a time. Though women's grooming was often carried out by enslaved female attendants rather than in public barber shops, the broader culture of bodily care included practices like depilation, the removal of unwanted hair, which would have involved instruments similar to tweezers. Today, We recognize that legacy most clearly in the ubiquitous presence of tweezers within modern grooming routines. The act of plucking stray hairs from eyebrows or other areas of the body is a direct descendant of the Roman practice of meticulous personal care. While the social context and motivations may differ, shifting from displays of status to expressions of individual style, the tool itself, refined over centuries but fundamentally unchanged in its basic design, remains a testament to the enduring influence of the tonsor and his craft. The removal of unwanted hair, depilation, was a practice that extended beyond elite women, though the methods and tools available would have varied considerably based on social standing. While literary sources offer glimpses into these practices, they often lack precise details about the instruments used or the specific techniques employed. It is reasonable to assume, however, that implements similar in design to tweezers were utilized for this purpose, adapted perhaps from those already familiar within barber shops and household service. The persistence of small blades and plucking tools suggests a widespread need for such grooming practices across different social strata. Evidence indicates that various substances might have been applied to the skin prior to or following hair removal to soothe irritation or inhibit regrowth. Recipes for these concoctions, often involving plant-based ingredients, appear in some surviving Roman texts, though their efficacy remains uncertain. The presence of small bronze tools discovered at archaeological sites across the Roman world further supports the notion that depilation was a common practice among both men and women, albeit with differing levels of sophistication depending on resources and access to skilled attendants. These finds underscore the broader cultural emphasis on bodily presentation and meticulous grooming within Roman society, extending beyond the more readily documented practices of shaving and haircutting performed by the tonsor.